Hello, Education 2220 students. I hope everyone is having a great week. So, we are moving right along. Believe it or not, we are working in our last module, Module 10. The semester is quickly coming to a close. I can't believe it. But we are starting Module 10, the very last module. Now, this module, I wanted to pull up the course calendar in the syllabus so you can see this module is a 2-week module. And the reason I did that is because we're working on our co-teaching presentations, but also because I wanted to give us time to get in our written analysis and get our closing documents. So there's a lot of big things due during this 2-week module. So the first thing I want you to look at is the co-teaching presentation. Now remember, I did do a video on this, so go to the course homepage if you haven't watched it. Also, underneath course projects, there is the co-teaching section that walks you through that actual assignment itself, what do you have to do. So please go back and look at that. But that's due April the 16th, which is what you're going to be looking at. I'll kind of go back and show you in just a little bit, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time because I did do a video on that, but we'll walk you through it again. You will have your Module 10 quiz due April the 16th, and then the following week on that Thursday, the 23rd, is when all of the service learning must be completed. So that's your 12 hours. That is your closing documents. I have to have them. Remember, your mentor teacher will email them to me. They will or be mailed to the school. So that has to be due by that date, and I need to receive them by that date. And also your written analysis, so your written assignment. So this is going to be, by now, you should have already been submitting your journals. That needs to be done because I need to give you feedback before you can write your written reflection analysis paper. So that everything is due on the 23rd. And then after that, it will be kind of our course wrap up activities. Um, and all makeup work will also be due by then. So you can just kind of see, and during finals week, we'll have our final. I will announce the exact date. I have to get the schedule of when that will open and when it will close. So I probably sometime within this 2 weeks, I'll have an email sent out to you. Hopefully within the next week, we'll see. Um, of when your final will be. That way you can make arrangements for that. But yeah, that pretty much will be the rest of the semester. So let's go ahead and jump into the last module. So this module is really going to be connected to your co-teaching. And what I mean by that is we know that co-teaching assignment, the project I'm having you do, is based on evidence-based practices, but there's also something called a high leverage practice. We also look at things like differentiated instruction, and we're looking at those co-teaching models because remember, you're going to use at least 2 models inside of your lesson. And all of these types of practices really help us create those inclusive classrooms in Gen Ed. When we start planning this way, it really addresses not only the academic needs, but it helps us with behavioral situations and challenges, and it also helps us look at those social emotional needs of all the learners in our classroom. So let's first dive into the overview. Now, we're hitting quite a bit of course outcomes, right? Those course outcomes, again, are the things that we want to master before the end of the semester. By the time you leave my class, we're mastering those 9. But our learning objectives really help us get there. So, our learning objectives this week, we're going to identify the categories of high leverage practices, define co teaching, and identify examples of the 5 co teaching models, justify the rationale for the use of research-based teaching strategies, and discuss the relative advantages of instructional tools and strategies based on student characteristics. Okay, so they're going to help us meet these and cover these course outcomes here. Now, in terms of standards, excuse me, not standards, I'm jumping ahead of myself. In terms of keywords and concepts, obviously we're looking at high leverage practices, right? We want to be able to define what they are. We also sometimes will refer to them as HLPs. So there are 4 areas of high leverage practices that really are that foundation, if you will, to effective teaching. So we've got collaboration, assessment, social emotional behavior, and instruction. And it's important that these all flow across the grade levels and different content areas, especially in inclusive classrooms. So these are key critical foundational pieces. Then we have evidence based practices, also known as EBPs. And they're really related to high leverage practices because of how the methods we go about when we're implementing them into it. So, some examples of what we would consider of an evidence based practice would be when you're co teaching models, like we peer tutoring, self monitoring. That's just some of them. That you have. Just thinking about the co teaching assignment in your evidence based practice that you teach, that's some of them. There's more, but I gave you additional ones as well. Differentiated instruction. The thing to note about that is when we're talking about differentiated instruction, we're looking at three things. Excuse me, really four things if you include the learning environment. We're looking at adjusting content, we're looking at the product, and then the process. And then, really, as I've said before, the learning environment is kind of like your second teacher. And if you're a co teacher, then really it's like your third teacher. We want to look at our students ready, right? What are their interests and what are their learning profiles? And those are really going to help us look at key elements like, okay, now that I know these things, what about flexible grouping? Would that work? What is my online assessments that I'm giving them? What does my data look like? Am I doing ongoing assessments, which you should be? What are those going to be looking like? Should I adjust that? And then giving them student choice. Okay. So we want to make sure that it's giving students access to everything to meet their learning needs. And that's why we do differentiated instruction. And then again, we have those five co teaching models, right? And remember, when we're defining what co teaching is, it's two or more educators who are sharing responsibility in the classroom for planning, instructing, and assessing. And again, when you were doing your co teaching project, you will see here that I asked you to pick at least two of these models that you were going to implement in your lesson. And really, there's a lot of benefits to it, but the main thing is that it shows those inclusive practices, right? And a lot of times we said when you're doing co teaching, it's most of the time with gen ed and special educators working together. Now, now we can get to the standards. So in terms of your teacher preparation and task standards, we're looking at learner differences, learning environments, and leadership and collaboration. Now, Council for Exceptional Children, we're looking at learner development and individual learning differences, learning environments, assessment, instructional planning, and strategies. So, with this module, we're really hitting all those standards. So, what are you going to here? Let's look first at our resources. What are you going to be required to read? So, this week, you're going to read some articles. And the reason I chose these instead of you going in your textbook is because I wanted to really hone in specifically on the key concepts like co-teaching, differentiated instruction, high leverage practices. So I found three really good articles that I feel like would help you and kind of connect those pieces together. Now, all of these articles really explore these strategies in diverse classrooms and in inclusive classrooms. So those are the three articles I want you to read. I do have a supplemental PowerPoint here for you if you want to look at it. It's about differentiated instruction. It's helpful, so I put that there for you. I also have co-teaching videos. This one specifically goes over the different co-teaching models. It's a little bit more in depth than those shorter videos I showed you underneath the co-teaching project. I feel like that this is going to give you a clear overview. It is a little bit long, but it is a really good video. I wanted to put that up there for you as well. We have the co-teaching models. This is the same, these are the same ones that were underneath the co-teaching assignment. Um, so it walks you through the examples. What does this actually look like if we're doing one teach, one observe in the classroom? What does station teaching look like? What does parallel teaching look like? How about alternative? Or sometimes alternative is really labeled differentiated. And then we've got team teaching. So it kind of walks you through some examples in the classroom of what those models look like. I have a high leverage practices video here for you. It's a link. It's a very good video as well. Lots of resources. But again, this is a 2-week model, so keep that in mind. If you didn't want to watch the high leverage practice video, I do have the transcript there for you if you're more of a read write learner. I do have additional resources on co-teaching. So there's a couple of links there for you. And then I also have an additional resource on differentiated instruction as well. So I always tell students can be a lot, but these resources are there for you to save, download. You can go back and use them at a different time. So I always like to give you um, items that you can pull if you put them in your toolkit, if you will. They're very helpful. Now, how are you going to be assessed? Well, you obviously are turning in your co-teaching project, so make sure that you do that by April 16th. I went over that in the next video. I mean, the last video that I put on the course homepage. But again, how you get to it is if you click on course projects and service learning module, there's a specific section that says co-teaching assignment. Okay, so please make sure that you go through and read it. I do have a video that kind of is an overview. It's an older video. I'm going to be redoing it, but it gives you the gist of what we're supposed to be doing. The newest updated version is the one I put on the course homepage. So watch that. This is the actual assignment itself, right? So remember, you're doing 2 pieces to this project. You have your lesson plan using the lesson plan template, and you're designing a 30-minute lesson with that evidence-based strategy that you chose, which you emailed me back in February, the 1st of February, of which one you wanted to do. And then you're going to implement 2 of the co-teaching models. Now, remember, the PowerPoint, it's not going to replicate the lesson, right? It's just visually showing us how we would implement this in a classroom. You're teaching us all about the strategy. Think about this as a teacher workshop. So, how do I use this strategy with my own students? So, the PowerPoint could be short video clips, it could be photos. It's really demonstrating this action, giving us an idea of how we can use this ourselves. Just make sure that it's not going to be verbatim the same thing that's in your lesson plan. It should be a highlight, right? Highlighting examples. And that will get put in the Dropbox. There is a specific Dropbox that I want the lesson plan and PowerPoint to go into. So if you scroll down to course projects, there is a Dropbox that says co-teaching lesson plan and presentation, and that's where you'll submit it. So going back to Module 10, of how you'll be assessed, you have your Module 10 quiz, right? You have the link there to turn in your co-teaching lesson plan and presentation. The thing that I showed you that you will also be doing besides that is you have to make sure you turn in your service learning documents and written assignments. And I'll show you in a minute where your written assignments are supposed to go. It's the same place as your journal. But you do also have 2 IRIS modules. One is on evidence-based practice, and one is also on differentiated instruction. So I kind of have the instructions there of what I want you to do. The differentiated instruction one is for your study benefit. They both are. I know this says here to submit it. This is just for me to give you extra bonus points. You can turn it in if you want, but you'll put here I do not turn in. It's a study. But if you do ever turn them in, I give you additional points. It's up to you. On the overall grade average under the section that says attendance and participation, that's where those points go. But the main things I want you to focus on, with this module, and again, it's 2 weeks, it will close on the 23rd, is make sure that you complete your quiz, and the dates are there of when they close, and also make sure you do your service learning written assignment. So don't forget to turn in your journal. If you've not done that, that should have already been submitted. The only reason that it's open longer is because of late submissions, but it should have already been submitted. But you'll see here, if you go under service learning written assignments, you're going to have that there. This is just a reminder, you are not going to be submitting your closing documents, your log, and your evaluation. That needs to be emailed to me, or that needs to be mailed out to the school. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. All right. I hope you have a great couple of weeks. Until next time, take care.